Hello, everyone, and welcome to my lunchtime chat that is sponsored by Our Black Hair Matters. Today, we are talking about the most common natural hair problems and how to fix them. And so today, we're going to talk about issues that stylists have, issues that clients have, and strategies on how to get back on track. And so this is really important because we need to think of ways to approach reoccurring problems because we hear about things over and over again. And you would think by now that we would have a solution, but that is not always the case. And so for those of you who do not know who I am, let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Crystal Porter, and this is a live online broadcast platform dedicated to elevating the Black hair care industry and empowering consumers and hair professionals with education that is driven and backed by scientific research. So before we get really going, let me look at the audience and see who is here. Say hello, put your name in. Hi, Rosetta, thank you for joining. And let us know as you join on where you're watching from, and put a number 1 in the comments if you are a hair practitioner. Put a number 2 in the comments if you are a consumer, and if you are a researcher or a scientist, or both, put in the number 3. I want to know exactly who you are. And hi, Angelica, thank you for joining. Hey, Andrea, thank you for coming. Number 2, Angelica, who are you? And Rosetta, I already know you are a hair practitioner and I believe you do hair restoration as well, or at least units. So yes, thanks for putting that in. All right. So just to make sure that people know what they're in for, if you are frustrated with the lack of information available when it comes to caring for your hair, or if you have wasted a lot of money like I have, and time and resources and trying to figure things out on your own, then you are definitely in the right place. And that is why we created the Our Black Hair Matters movement. So before we get started, just want to let you know that we have a very valuable resource, and it is the 3 biggest mistakes to avoid when caring for your curly hair. A lot of people ask the same questions, and I can tell they're doing the same things. And so I put together something that consolidates everything for you. So to get it, you can go to my bit.ly link, and it's OBHM Consult. And so that will be put into the chat to make it easy for you. And so we have, is it Diane? Thank you for coming. You are number 2, a consumer, all right. And then thank you for Angelica, you are a stylist. And then Taria says hello. Samaria, hello, thank you for joining. All right. So I wanted to come on here and have a heart-to-heart discussion because I put a post up on social media, and I don't always put posts up in all of my platforms, right? So I put this up in Facebook as well as LinkedIn. So as you know, LinkedIn is a more professional platform. And so anything related to hair or science, I usually try to put it up on my LinkedIn platform. But if I'm posting something that's more general, I don't. But this particular video I put up was based on a personal injury court episode. And so it was the I forgot what you call it when it's like a commercial for an upcoming segment. And they showed something that was really quite disturbing to me. And as a researcher, I had a particular opinion about it. And I wanted to see what the response would be on LinkedIn, particularly because a lot of my peers are on LinkedIn. So I wanted to know if what I saw resonated with them in a similar way. So for those of you who may not be familiar with it, I'll give you a setup. And basically a woman uh, her hair was braided too tight, and she lost her hair permanently. It's a big scar, missing scalp in the center of her head. And so it was disturbing to me, and I think it has a lot of implications. But I think before I go any further into my rant, I want to have that video pulled up. So for those of you who are just joining on, thank you. And we are going to play that video. Okay, we don't have any sound. That's not cool. Let me see. I don't know if there's a way to get sound. I don't know. Let's see. It was playing with sound when this was done earlier, so try to figure out what's going on. And even if we don't have sound, I think what you will see will definitely, let me see, maybe if I mute myself. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through it since you can't hear. So this is an expert who was showing everything that had to do with what was going on as a doctor. And so this is a celebrity, and she says that she wants what she wanted, and she has also suffered the consequences of just wanting what she wants. And so she doesn't have any hair either. So that is one of the things that I want to talk about, because well, first of all, I want to hear from other people out there. With what I described and for what you saw on the video, what are your thoughts? I want to hear what you think, either as a consumer, as a professional, even as a researcher. If you are out there, I want to hear your thoughts about this before I go and share, what I really feel. But when I put it on LinkedIn, I was hoping that some of my peers, who are my fellow researchers and scientists, would look at this and have a different lens than people who are consumers. Because as a consumer, you will look at this video and be like, oh my God, that's horrible. How did that happen? If the stylist was at fault because she braided the hair too tight, which is what the episode was about, whether or not the stylist was negligent. And then some people are like, oh no, it's the consumer, because it's up to the consumer to let them know that it is too tight, and maybe if she didn't speak up, then that's on her. So you hear a lot of back and forth in terms of who's at fault. And I think that it should be a little bit more, we need to be a little bit more critical when we look at something like this, because my standpoint is, oh my God, that's horrible. However, why did that happen to her? And it's less about who's at fault and her hair being pulled too tight, because we all know and have all been affected. Usually, if you've had your hair cornrowed or French braided in some capacity, that your hair has been pulled too tight. But what is it about the fact that she had such a severe consequence as a result of it? Because you hear about people who have their hair pulled too tight, and you can actually see, along the perimeter of the hairline, you can see the little bumps that occur, and you can sometimes, and I've seen this, I have pictures of it where you actually see blood that's actually coming from the hair follicle. I mean, so all of that is horrible. But to the extent where she would lose her hair, where a whole patch of her scalp is just not there anymore. I mean, it's scarred over, and yeah, she will never be the same again. And you can tell that her hair follicles are just gone, and she just is left with scar tissue. And so it's just devastating to have to go through something like that. But my mind is like, okay, while she suffered that and had that unfortunate result, What can we as researchers do to understand what the underlying causes that would make her more susceptible to something so drastic? I want to know what it is about her. Is it something related to her diet? Is it something related to a combination of diet and maybe is something going on with her scalp? So one of the things, and so let me look at Taria. She says the question that stands out for you is why didn't she take it out? How long does it take for that to happen? Not judging. No, great question, Taria. Um, so my understanding is that the day after she had it done, she contacted the stylist, and I don't think she had it in her hair very long at all. When you look at the episode, and you can find the episode on YouTube, the problem is out of all the episodes they have, the quality of that particular video is horrible. You can still follow it, but it's not the most ideal video to really look at, but you get the gist of it, and it didn't take her long to take it out. So it's unfortunate that even with a short time period, with it being left in her hair, she still suffered those consequences. So as a researcher, I'm like, okay, it brings me back to something that stylists have shared with me, and I didn't really know about it until I heard stylists talk about a tight scalp versus a loose scalp. So there were a number of hair practitioners on here. I want to know what your experience is with tight versus loose scalps are. Now, if you are like me and you only know, like I only know my own hair or my scalp, and I know my daughter's, but I have no idea as to what the magnitude of tight versus loose is. And so, was it glued? No, it was not glued. Her hair was cornrowed, and then she had an installation of weave or hair extensions. That is what she had. So no, this is not the impact of glue. This is just the fact that it was pulled tightly and installed. But then the other thing is, when you talk about loose versus tight scalps, I had someone actually tell me, because I was curious, I was like, well, do I have a loose or tight scalp? And she was like, oh, it's kind of average, it's kind of tight. And she said loose scalps really move. So you can actually like do this and you see a lot of movement. And I had no idea that that was even a thing. But hair practitioners, they see thousands of people within their lifetime. So, I mean, they've seen it all, right? But that is why it's so important that we work together so that we can actually brainstorm and try to figure out what the heck is going on with a lot of the issues that you guys see that we as researchers have very little, if no, comprehension about. So that is extremely important. The other thing I wanted to mention is if she had had her hair with extensions before, what was different? Was it the hair that was installed? Was that a factor? So there are so many unknowns when it comes to our hair that we really need to consider, and that is why I work together with hair practitioners. So I see Andreas asked, was it glued? But I'm really curious about the hairstylist. I want to know what your experience is. If you feel that you use the same amount of tension with someone and then you do it with someone else and then, they can't take it as much. And so we always hear about people being tender-headed and, are they just not able to take it? Is this something that's going on with people who can actually feel more? Would they be more responsive or be more susceptible to having something like that? These are the things that I feel is important. Also, we need consumers to speak up and tell us about things that are going on with them as well. So Taria, you said, I just tested mine and it doesn't move much. Okay, this is interesting. Does this call tender-headedness? That is a great question. I have no idea. I would have to say my oldest daughter feels that she is more tender-headed. And when she had a more in-depth conversation about it, what I think she was talking about is the fact that she has seborrheic dermatitis And sometimes when she has more inflammation or her scalp is more inflamed, that is more tender, because that's something that I also struggle with. And it's interesting. It flares up sometimes more so than others, and it's not anything that's unusual. It's very common for sufferers of seborrheic dermatitis to go through phases where you have more of a problem with the flaking and how your hair or your scalp feels tender compared to other days. So it's very difficult to predict it. But I believe when she said that she was tender-headed, because I don't remember her being tender-headed when she was a child, but then when she described it, I understood her to say that when her scalp is inflamed and more tender to the touch, then, it's more difficult. So that's another thing, does she suffer from any of these scalp diseases that would make her hair more susceptible to it? I mean, there's so many questions. And so no one on LinkedIn, none of my peers had anything to do with it. No one said anything. Now, maybe they didn't see it. That's possible. And then I also know the algorithm for posting something on LinkedIn. If you take them off of the LinkedIn platform, you probably have less views, or it's not shown as much. And so that could have been a factor, but no one said anything. And it could be because they weren't thinking like I was thinking, or it could be because they didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, because of the just reality that a lot of the scientists don't look like me. They usually aren't a woman of color, and they usually aren't well versed in hair extensions and really know the in-depth information, experience with it. So they probably wanted to stay away from it because of the cultural sensitivity, which is a possibility. I want to say that, but I was a little disappointed, because I really do feel that as researchers, it's our responsibility to think about other biological processes or factors that need to be considered when looking at something so dramatic. So I want to hear your perspective as well. So please let me know your thoughts on this. But I do want to get to how this kind of plays into a lot of the challenges that I see women with natural hair have. And so I wanted to break it up into what the consumer experiences, what the stylist experiences, and what they can consider. And then I want to follow up with strategies. So for those of you who do your hair yourself, it's really important for you to understand what you need as an individual. And so we talk about all of the bloggers and people doing YouTube videos out there, and it's a lot of people putting out a lot of information. And so finding out what works for you is really unique. And one of the things I did this weekend, I was working, and so I was playing with a lot of hair fibers, a lot of them. And so I was classifying the hair, because even though you have the, I'll say, more well-known hair classification system where you have, 1A down to 4C, there are various degrees in curl. However, when I was with L'Oreal, I was very fortunate to be a part of a team that used what we call a quantifiable way of classifying hair. So it means that you take the hair fibers and you do particular measurements on it. And this is published information. If you want it, let me know, and I can definitely send you to the abstract. But I was doing a lot of measurements on numerous hair fibers, and it's just amazing to me how you can have the same classification designation, but have totally different aesthetics for the hair. So sometimes the hair is just really smooth as you look down the length of the shaft. And then other hair fibers, you see a lot of bends and kinks, but it doesn't necessarily translate into it being a different designation. And so I think, some people say, you have curly, then you have coily, and then you have zigzag, right? And so I think that's probably equating it to that. But this quantifiable way allows us to be able to have a definitive way to make comparisons. And it's scientific because it's numbers involved. And so you are very consistent in the way you categorize it. So Dion, you said maybe because it was in litigation, they were being mindful and not adding comments. Well, maybe. I don't think that was it. It was already decided upon for that particular show. The judge actually ruled in the plaintiff's favor. So she was asking for $480,000, I believe, and she won. The plaintiff who suffered the scalp ailment, she is the one who won. So Dion, I understand that, but no, I don't think that's why people stayed silent, because it was already judged on. And hello, Renee, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. So yeah, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about a video that I showed earlier on that was on personal injury court, which is, I guess, one of those reality shows. But this particular woman suffered, her whole scalp, I mean, just definitely affected. And because of extensions that she had added that were too tight, her whole crown area of her hair was just gone, and it was a complete circle. So if you're joining lately and you need to see the replay, please see the replay, because you need to see exactly what happened with that woman. But I want us to start thinking out the box more. So that is what I wanted to talk about. But understanding what you need as an individual, you know, of course, considering what it is you're looking for, because the products that you use will be dictated based on what your ultimate result is, you know, what it is. And so without having a conversation or being the type of person who wants to explore and buy a lot of products, which I know I don't like to buy a lot of products and explore, but there are a lot of people who like to do that. But that is something that you need to do. You need to understand exactly what you need. And there are a lot of people who say, hey, I'm having hair loss. And when you say you have hair loss or you're having hair breakage, as a professional, for me, I don't know, and either a stylist, they won't know either until they see you and they can actually see the hair fibers. But just saying that you have hair loss or you have hair breakage, that doesn't give us a lot of confidence that we know that you are basing that on exactly what your hair is or how it's coming out. So is it hair loss due to shedding from the scalp, where you actually have the bulb at the end? Or is it shedding due to true breakage, where your hair shaft is actually breaking off? And so a lot of times people say they have hair loss and we don't even know what that is. So having the ability to be with a professional where you can either sing your hair fibers in if you're not seeing a professional yet, or you can actually go in and be seen, but also having the option and knowing that a dermatologist can help to assess that as well. The other thing is knowing the difference between something that's aesthetic, which is saying that you want your hair smoother or softer or shinier. All of that is aesthetic because it's based on something that you see or you feel. Or something that is functional, because some people are like, oh, my hair is weak, so I need to be stronger. And so when you have claims on a particular product, you want to make sure that it's matched with what it is you need, but you also need to ask questions, because anyone who's been rolling with me knows that my hashtag is show me the data, because that's what it's about. With hair science, I want to know the data. I want to know how much research you've done. But one of the main missions for our Black Hair Matters is that we need to demand that we get more information about what's being put in and on our hair. We need to know this information. And if there's a claim that is connected to the product, it's not just cleansing, or if it's like a clarifying shampoo, I'm not too worried about that, because most people know that clarifying or purifying shampoos will help to get off, you know, a lot of the buildup. Or if you have a lot of grease, then you can use that to help to get that off. However, when it's considered a moisturizing shampoo, where's the data to show that it's actually beneficial as a moisturizing shampoo? So my good friend and colleague, Angela Ellington, she knows a lot about that, but there are different degrees. So you can't say that there is just one extreme of a moisturizing shampoo. How moisturizing is it and what attributes is it going to give you? That's really what's needed. And so not all hair is going to respond the same. So just having more background information on how this was determined that it was a moisturizing shampoo. Is it just based on the ingredients itself, or is it based on how it behaves? Those are two different things. So we need to start asking those questions as consumers, and I raise my hand to say I'm a consumer as well. So Renee says, you definitely have to see the replay. Yes, you have to look at the video. And once again, it's just a little snippet of the episode. And if you want to see the whole episode in a poor quality, it can be found on YouTube. All right. And so the other thing is, it's all about the influencers right now. There are a lot of people who get their information from YouTube and other people who are out there doing their own hair. And the unfortunate thing is, I think the companies are really getting over. And the reason why I say that is because what used to happen, and I'll say probably 8 years back, 8 years and older, or more years than 8, there were a lot of stylists getting education from the actual companies, and that's not happening right now. So a lot of the information that you get about products is based on what the experience of the professional. And so it's important for them to have a lot of knowledge and experience, but if there is a new formulation, then they don't have the background to really properly know what to do if it's a new formulation, or if it's something that is just presented out into the world. Like a lot of small companies have their products and they give samples. And so if it's something new, you really do need instructions, but a lot of companies aren't providing that. And the reason being is because they are relying on the influencers, right? And so we need to demand that if they're going to sell a product, they need to let you know how to work with the product. And so if the influencer isn't showing you data to show that, hey, not only am I able to do this and it has all these benefits from what I'm experiencing, they need to also say, and not only do I experience this, here are some data to show that shows that it's supposed to enhance whatever it is, whatever claim they're making. So it's up to us to be more demanding so that we can elevate the industry. And I really make a point of saying this because when it comes to natural products or natural ingredients, we are all over it as consumers. We are all saying that, hey, we need to have something that's all natural. If I can't eat it, then I don't want to use it. And there are problems within it with that, because we also expect it to have a particular functionality, meaning that we want it to be natural, but we want it to function as something that is not natural. And so that's a whole nother segment. But it's important for you to realize that if we don't make demands, then they're not going to do anything about it. And so just the mere fact that there is an example that when we ask for more natural products, that they produce more natural products or have natural ingredients, we know just from that experience that our opinion matters as consumers, and we need to start demanding it. The other thing that we need to demand, so for those of you who don't do your hair yourself, for stylists, you need to demand that stylists can give you the information that you need. And so ask them about the experience that they have. Ask them to be transparent about what determines why they're using a particular product on you versus someone else, because just like with anything, you have to have a variety, right? So depending upon the style, depending upon the hair quality, that's going to dictate what is being used. Ask questions about why they're using it. That's something that a stylist should readily be able to answer. But also don't stop there. Also say, okay, for what you're basing it on. Is there data to back that up? I want us to be able to make sure that we are asking all the right questions, because you want to make sure that something is safe and effective. And so when you have a small company or some product that someone has whipped up, you want to know whether or not they've done their due diligence and done the safety testing and stability testing, and to see if it's effective. And so have them, make sure that they give you information based on data and science. So Taria says, that's a great point. We want things that are natural to perform unnatural results. Yeah, and that is true. And that is one of the biggest obstacles in the hair industry, is trying to have a natural product perform in the way that people want them to. It's pretty tough to do that. And the reason why formulation is really important is because it's not as simple as just mixing ingredients together and stirring it in a pot. It's an art to making products, just like it's an art to cooking. It's one of the same. And Angela Ellington and I usually use that analogy when it comes to understanding how the consistency or the performance of a product is almost like food and a recipe that you would use. And so, okay, so these are some of the things that consumers need to consider. So now I want to go into stylists. And I think stylists are the scapegoat a lot of times. We expect stylists to be able to work miracles. If there are any stylists or practitioners who agree with that, let me know. Because as the woman said in the video, I want what I want. And I'm like that too. It's been times where I have gone to a stylist and was like, okay, I need to have a relaxer and I need my hair to look like this because I got an event in 2 days. And, if you're not willing to do it, even though my hair is, not in a condition to get a relaxer because I've been scratching or whatever. If someone tells me no, then you go to someone else who's going to say yes, right? And so as stylists, I have seen how professionals can give in, right? They're like, well, they're going to go to someone else, so I may as well give them what they want. And as a professional, you have had different trainings and education to dictate how you should navigate in that space. And if you have to turn down someone, you need to be diligent and turn people down. And I actually commend a lot of professionals who turn people away because they're not going to be bullied into doing something that they know is not good. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. And I know in this day and age it's difficult, but that's something that in the long run, I think you'll benefit from. So Renee says that she 100% agrees. But having said that, I've also I've seen that there have been a lot of stylists who do things and they are taking shortcuts, right? And so sometimes when it comes to, like, for example, when I had my color for the first time, it was the first time I ever had color. With me being a scientist, I was really anal and I saved my hair fibers and I collected them because I still had a relaxer. And I know the fragility of my own hair. So I saved my hair fibers enough where I could take it to my stylist. She was nice enough to pre-treat it so I can know what color I wanted, how long it needed to be left on. And I mean, it's an advantage that I had for being a scientist, right? But more so than that, she was able to do the patch test. So that's when you take a product that you may have an allergic reaction to, you put a little spot right behind the ear, you wait 24 hours to see if there is, any irritation or any adverse reactions. And I did the patch test, so then I was able to do my color. So I had a two-step process, and that took time, right? So it took time for me to know what color I wanted, because I didn't want to be the type that, oh, I thought my hair was going to end up like this and it wasn't. But then I wanted to make sure that I wasn't allergic to an ingredient that could have had dire consequences. So Tracy, hey Tracy, thanks for joining. You say yes indeed. I turned away more than a few. Awesome. With solid conscience. Excellent. I couldn't dance. You said I couldn't dance with the damaging hair practices as a teaching stylist. Yes, absolutely. It's just not worth it. So the other thing that I hear, and I'm amazed at it, is a lot of stylists don't think that you should educate the client. And I don't understand that philosophy, because I would think when they step out the door, they're a representation of you and you would want them to know how to keep it up. But a lot of stylists have the attitude that they want to safeguard. So this is something that, you have to work past. And I have to be honest with you, for people who have hair problems who seek me out, I usually ask them, are they doing their hair themselves or are they going to a professional? And about 80% of the people who see me, or who they don't see me, they contact me. And then if I meet with them via Zoom or whatever, they tell me that they are actually seeing a professional. So these are some unhappy people with stylists, and they don't know how to maintain their own hair, and they're seeking help from another stylist. So these are people who are paying money, who want to pay money to someone else, and they just don't know where to go. And so recently, I've actually had more clients that don't have hair loss issues. It's just hair quality issues, which are totally different. And they just need to have a competent stylist. And I'm just amazed at how many people are wanting to give their money to get service properly, and they don't know where to turn. So that's something that I've been helping with. Denise Hay, she says, so sad to hear as a professional. I know it breaks my heart as well. But Denise, you are needed. Your expertise is needed. So hang in there. I know the pandemic has really affected a lot of stylists, but they're coming, because there are a lot of people who don't want to deal with their hair, which is a whole nother issue. And then the problem that I have is it's really interesting. I find it amazing that a lot of professionals feel that they already have the information that they need. And that's just not the case, because formulations are forever changing. The way that consumers are, I'll say, modifying their own hair, that's changing, because as consumers, you're experimenting too, right? And so you're doing things that will affect the quality of your hair, and then your stylist doesn't know. And so the stylist really needs to know exactly what's going on, all the different ways that people can do their hair and affect the quality, and then therefore be able to make an informed decision about what to do. So Renee says, educating a client is utmost important. I agree. When clients leave your chair salon, okay, they need to know how to maintain their hair until they return to you. For services, okay, it's a twofold client stylist relationship. I agree, yes. But you'd be amazed to the people who contact me and I ask questions about what that stylist client relationship is, and they just tell me things that I think are just, unprofessional. And so I'm glad that, so it's almost like I'm preaching to the choir. A lot of people already know how you should treat your clientele, or how professionals should treat their clientele. But I also want the clients or the consumer to know that you should be demanding this as well. And then, continuing on with the education, and almost going back to what I was talking about with the video, there's so much information that we need to even continue to serve people in the way they deserve to be served. And so you have hands-on experience that is needed. And so I am putting together a hair science mastermind. And this hair science mastermind, it doesn't cost anything. But one of the things that's the major focus is just to hear what you as consumers are experiencing. Now, I was listening, and I'm a podcast listener. Actually, recently I've become a podcast listener because, as I said, I was playing with all these hair fibers and taking all these measurements. So I had it on as background noise or information as I worked. And so I have been on a Brene Brown kick. And so Brene Brown is the #1, I'll say, clinical qualitative researcher for social work. And so she does a lot of stuff that has to do with leadership. And so I was listening to her podcast, and she, what's the name of the guy? Did I write? Angus Fletcher. Angus Fletcher, he's actually a English literary expert. And so you're probably wondering, why am I bringing up someone who is an expert in literature, and how does this relate to research and science? But it was amazing because what he said was that literature reported that there are 2 different types of PTSD. So, you hear about PTSD for people who are in the military. They have some type of traumatic experience, and then it affects them emotionally years after the occurrence. And so he said people were writing about the 2 different ways you can experience PTSD before the scientists even knew that there were 2 types of PTSD. So I say that to say the value in taking experiences from one other field and then incorporating it with research to really understand and to further the ways that we can help people. And that is what this mastermind is about. So the hair science mastermind is bringing together stylists who want to have a seat at the table and to just, I want to hear about what you're experiencing so I can figure out how to either incorporate it into my own research or how to propose it to my peers so that we can work together to solve a lot of these issues. All right, so Denise says, as a stylist, you learned that the more you educate your clients, the more referrals they give. Yes, that's excellent. Jacqueline says, yes, educate the guest. Awesome. Denise also says, clients feel more comfortable with the stylist that is knowledgeable and willing to educate. Yes. And then Renee says, Denise, exact plus. Yes, an exact plus. Exactly. So it is time for us to continue to work together, but I think just coming together, and you can see the ticker there, it's on my link tree. If you go to my link tree, Our Black Hair Matters, there's another link that is on top that says Hair Science Mastermind. You click on that, you register, and then I will send you the information for us to get together. The date of that will be on the 28th. Now I am, or is it the 29th? I know it's a Monday, the 29th. So a week from today is next Monday, and it'll be at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're Eastern, it's 7, and then if you are on the West Coast, it's 4. But at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be bringing together hair practitioners so we can talk about these things, because the state of the industry just needs to change, and we all need to work together to come up with the solution. So I want to end with strategies to get on the right track, right? So if you do your own hair, it's just, you have to take the time and be patient, have patience to get to know it. And when I say you got to get to know it, it's a lot of experiment with that. And a lot of people don't have patience. And trust me, I am one of those people. And so, but you have to take the time. You got to make the mistakes. Now, I tell people, it's better to get a professional to help guide you. But for those who are like, I'm on a budget and, I just don't want to go to a stylist, or I haven't found the right stylist, as I said, you want to talk to me about that. But if you want to, trial and error and do it yourself, you can. You just have to be patient, right? And then the other thing I want to say is you need to rely on sources that can be trusted. Having a stylist, asking questions, and vetting that particular stylist. If you're going to resort to YouTube videos, see what the main goal of the video is. Is that person, because now you have to disclose if you are an influencer, because an influencer, just because they have a lot of likes and they have a lot of influence, they can say whatever and a lot of people will follow them. But if they're being sponsored by someone, it doesn't make the education that they provide bad. You just want to follow up with that influencer and ask, #show me the data. You want the influencer not to only give you information about how the product is performing for them, you want them to also give information about, okay, this is your experience. How many other people have done this? What are the data? What does the data say? How many people were included? I mean, all of this stuff needs to be, in my opinion, divulged. And then follow your instincts. If I have spoken to a lot of people who have been in a stylist seat, unhappy for a long time, and just don't know where to go. Even though they know that the stylist isn't doing something right, they just stay because they don't have any other options. I've even had someone who had someone in the same salon suite, so to speak. And so she didn't want to go to the other person who was in the same salon suite, even though they could have given better service because they were unhappy. And sometimes if you need to, go outside, everybody should, have the ability to do that. So just trust your instincts and feel confident in moving on. And then if you need to find the right stylist, trichologist, or physician, you need to know when it's time to do so. So make sure if you have any of those questions, I see the link is already here. Oh, that's the science mastermind. But if we can put the link in on how to contact me, because if you want to get help from one of my team members who has definitely had the education, then that is something that I can help with. And that is a complimentary 15-minute consultation, an OBHM consult, and you can see that there in the screen right now. So are there any other questions before I bring it to a close? But I really appreciate everyone tuning in. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And let me know if there are other things that you would like to talk about. I'm here for you and giving you the information. I've had a number of guests on based on the feedback that I've gotten. It's so funny. A lot of people have expressed that some of the sprinkling of the emotional aspect of our Black Hair Mattering and the experts I had with Dr. Tamika and Dr. Afia, that you really appreciated that, because I even, got some stats that I didn't realize when it came to the preference of, Black men and what they say about wanting, with the type of hair that they say they want, and then correlating it with, who they prefer and choose. But like Dr. Tamika shared, that was amazing. So it's really nice to be able to, have a sprinkling of the emotional. So you said, is there a link to find trichologists in your city? No, I don't have a link, but I do definitely have trichologists that can be of service. So I can reach out to you and give you, or you can actually schedule a consultation, and you'll be able to reach one of our team members to be able to have the trichologist that would be better for you, because based on the consultation, that will dictate who you are sent to. So. And then you say in my city. So I'm in the Chicagoland area. And so I do have people in the Chicagoland area, and I have a few in other places as well. So depending upon where you are, that's how I would do the referral. And hey, Nadia, thanks for joining. Well, okay. But thank you guys for your attention. Really appreciate it. And as always, take care and love your hair. Have a good one.